Hey everyone, this is JG, and today we're talking about Raid Shadow Legends. Alright, so if you saw my last video, you know I've been trying to work on the Iron Twins with my very limited box. And since that last video, with my zero accuracy team, two things happened. Number one, Plarium released that they're planning to make Unkillable not work against the Iron Twins. We don't know the details of that yet. They haven't released an updated version of the boss yet, but probably my team's not going to work anymore. And the second thing that happened is that I have been running this team for a week or so, and these 10 to 12 minute runs are painfully slow. And so I'm not loving my current team, so I've been looking for another thing that I can do. So one of the things that I've been looking for, I know Helicath, Demitha, block damage is supposed to still work, and so I have these great block damage champs, but the challenge is I really need these champs to do double duty. I can't just run them only in my Iron Twins team. So Helicath is also an important part of my clan boss team. I can't sacrifice my clan boss team just to make an Iron Twins team. So what I've been looking for is a way to make Helicath work on both of those at the same time. So I used my old Helicath speed in the video that I showed last time, but what I did this time is I looked around for some other Helicath comps, and I found a great one, and then I built a clan boss comp that matches it. And so what I've got for you today is a way to handle Demon Lord, Ultra Nightmare, Nightmare, and Iron Twins, all three of those on all affinities, and use the same Helicath in all of them. I use 9 total champions across those 3 different bosses, and I'm pretty proud of it. Let's take a look. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to Deadwood Jedi. He is the master of speed tunes. So I'm using his Iron Twins comp. I don't want to rip off his content here, so I'm saying as little as I can about this comp. If you want to find that comp, the Iron Twins comp here, it's down below in the video description. There's a link to Deadwood Jedi's video. All I will say about it here is it needs a Helicath with 247 to 249 speed, and it can take a DPS at 179 to 180 speed. And so what I did today, again, using Deadwood Jedi's calculator. Deadwood Jedi is awesome. Using the clan boss calculator, I put together a clan boss comp that matches that Helicath. So I can use Deadwood Jedi's Iron Twins team, and then I can also make a Hellcat team that works for clan boss. So I can get everything out of this Helicath. One thing you have to do if you try this, you have to decide what you tune your Helicath for. If you give him War Master for the clan boss damage, that's not ideal for Iron Twins because a big hit on the Iron Twins has the potential to trigger that retaliatory launch and throw the comp off. So you can choose which one matters the most to you, but with just one Helicath, you can get all 3 of these done. So if you're short on block damage or unkillable champs, this is a way to get it done. So for me, yeah, I really like my Hellcat team. I didn't want to jump all the way back to budget unkillable for my clan boss teams. And so I found a way to make this work. So like I said, 9 total champs across all of this. Unfortunately, with this specific speed value that we need on Helicath, I couldn't find a comp that worked the exact same in Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare. But what I was able to find was with just one swap, I'm changing one of your DPS champs to a little bit lower speed. Makes it work in Nightmare with no changes to the rest of the team, and that speed does work with the Iron Twins. And so if you have a really good Poisoner, maybe a Occult Brawler or even a Frozen Banshee, you can make them work as both your Nightmare DPS and your Iron Twins DPS. So overall, 9 total champions to get this done. Helicath is the only legendary you need. You can get by with epics and rares in all the other slots here. So let's take a look. All I'm going to share here is the clan boss comp, because again, Iron Twins, look to Deadwood Jedi's video on that. So here is, here on the screen, we've got the speed values that you need for this in both difficulties. Let's dive in to see how the comp works. So here's the actual team that I use. So Helicath, of course, for the block damage. And this is a Hellcat style team, so that means we're also using Helicath's big beefy shield to tank the stun. So we're not unkillable for the stun, but we have enough shield and enough defense on our champions that we can just shrug off that stun and keep trucking. Duchess, that's definitely the rarest champion that I have in this comp. You don't need a Duchess. This is just what I happen to have. Honestly, her talents are wasted on this poor fan boss comp that I use. But I don't have any of the other options. Your epic options are going to be Scathix or Sepulchre Sentinel. What you need is a 2-turn block debuffs on a 4-turn cooldown. Third slot, I have Sandlash Survivor. You need someone that has a 1-turn buff duration extend on your team on a 3-turn cooldown. So again, there's a couple options here. Sandlash is a good epic. Godseeker Aniri works here. Demitha, even the rare Valerie is able to do this. So it's a farmable rare from, I think, just the first chapter of campaign. And then 2 DPS. I use Geomancer and Urticata here. Urticata's a great poison champ. And then in Nightmare, I use Frozen Banshee. I could build up an Occult Brawler, as I mentioned before. I like having a rare here because that also helps me do the occasional advanced quest that requires you to use a rare to fight the clan boss. A note here, I use Sandlash Survivor as the lead in this one. She's got a defense aura, which is going to boost damage for her and for Helicath and help with everyone, with whoever takes the stun. I will note Helicath has a stronger defense aura, but there's a reason we can't use Helicath, and that's because of the stun targeting. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. One caveat, I haven't actually built this team. This is actually the exact set of champions that I use today in Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare. But currently I'm using a slightly different speed value, one that works in both difficulties at the same time, and I'm using Duchess's speed aura to make it a little bit easier to build. But the comp is pretty much exactly the same. The way that the turns come out is going to be exactly the same as the team that I run today, so I know it's a comp that worked. I trusted with Jedi's calculator, so I've tested the details of this before. I just tweaked the speed values a little bit to get Helicath up to that 247 value that works with the other comp at the same time. So let's walk through how it works. It's pretty straightforward. Once it syncs, here's what you get. You get Helicath use that A3 block damage down at the top of the first turn before the first AoE comes in. In the second turn, you get Helicath using his shield and Duchess using that block debuff skill. In the third turn, you have Sandlash Survivor using that buff extend skill. So your block damage coverage, you have only 1 turn from everyone in this second turn, so that means block damage, the 2-turn block damage blocks both those AoEs, so no chance of dying from those. And the buff extend here is actually pretty nice. It does 3 useful things for us. So number 1, it extends that block debuffs from Duchess. So it turns that 2-turn block debuffs into a 3-turn block debuff. It happens a little while afterwards, but it makes sure that even though you have a couple people taking double turns in that third turn, they keep block debuffs up. So that means block debuffs can also cover the stun. So not only are we tanking the stun damage-wise, but no one gets stunned, so we still get all of our turns for dealing maximum damage. The second thing it does, Helicath uses his A2 in the second round, so that's the big shield that he puts up. So this also extends that shield, makes sure that everyone has a nice fat shield on them, so whoever takes the stun hit from the clan boss has a big shield that hopefully helps them not take any damage or be able to tank this through the whole fight. And the third thing it does, right before Sandlash Survivor goes, Helicath gets a turn. That's where Helicath drops his block damage. And with Helicath's passive, the block damage turns into the increased defense instead. By increasing it a turn, that means that when we wrap around back to the beginning, Helicath will have that increased defense on turn 2 when he uses that shield. So that's basically 60% extra defense for the shield. So without needing to bring any other buffer in here, you're getting the max value out of Helicath's shield. So that's why Sandlash Survivor is a key here. Like I said, Godseeker and Neri would work as well here. I like Sandlash Survivor, and Godseeker has the same thing. They're defense-based, which means they also benefit from both a defense aura if you use one of those, as well as that 60% buff from the expiring block damage. So Sandlash in this case, for both of the A1 hits she does, which she hits pretty hard, she's got the buff on for that. Then block debuffs. So again, Duchess puts it on here in the A2 in that second round, so it blocks whatever debuff you have in the clan boss's A2, the AoE. So that means we're fully safe for Spirit Affinity. We always block that decreased speed as well as the decreased accuracy or attack. I think that can happen in the other affinities. But one thing to note there is one champion that is not fully protected, and that's Helicath. Because I wanted Helicath to expire that block, the block damage to get the increased defense. Because of the turn order here, he does also drop the block debuffs. And so that means when it comes to stun targeting, we just need the clan boss to hit anyone but Helicath. Anyone else will be fully covered, they won't get stunned, and it won't throw the comp off. For the DPS champs, even if they got stunned, it wouldn't throw off the unkillable, it would just be a little bit less damage. So this is why in my version, I have Sandlash Survivor as the aura. Actually, the version that I'm actively running today, I have Duchess up there. One of the properties of Duchess that's interesting here is she doesn't just throw up block debuffs, she also throws up a Veil, which means regardless of affinity, the clan boss can only see her and Helicath, and since she's in the leader slot, she's the one that always takes the stun over Helicath. Sandlash Survivor, if you put her in the lead slot, it's going to work really similarly, which is she's in the lead slot, so that's good. Same affinity as Helicath, so if the clan boss is going for Spirit, he'll always go for Sandlashed over Helicath. If he goes for another affinity, that's fine too. I do kind of like my my Duchess version because with that Veil, it also just means it's always Duchess that takes it. I've tuned her level of defense and her amount of regen so that she can take it. She actually, in my current version, dies right on turn 48, which is just as things are closing down anyway. So you might need to make sure that all your other people that are possible of taking stuns in this comp, if you're not using Duchess, just make sure that they have enough defense that they can continue taking that hit all the way through. Honestly, I think if they're lower HP, Duchess is really tanky. Because it's a gravity hit from Clan Boss, you'd actually prefer low HP, high defense is going to work the best, because then the size of Helicath's shield is also worth a lot more to them. But you might have trouble there if you use some really fragile or really low defense champs that end up taking the stun in a certain affinity. The AI is really simple. In Ultra Nightmare, it's full auto. Helicath, pretty much just the default. It's prioritize the A3, use A2 after A3, and on the first turn this works. By the way, what I showed above was what this looks like after it sinks, but obviously, as usual in a clan boss team, the first couple rounds are a little bit different than that, but not in a way that matters. The A3 still protects you when it needs to protect you. Some of the early hits, you won't have block damage all the way, but you'll have Helicath's shield instead. So when clan boss is still just like pumping out tiny damage, the shield is enough to protect you instead. So literally, like, no one except the stun target is going to take actual damage for the entire fight. So especially if you want to use that mastery that gives you more damage at max HP, they'll be at max HP for this whole fight. The Duchess and Sandlash are pretty easy. Just set the opener to use their A1, so they delay that A2 skill, the block debuff, so the buff extend by one turn, use it on the second turn. So full auto from turn one. This is really, really easy one to run. And the version I run today, I can 2-key Ultra Nightmare and 1-key Nightmare with the champions that I have in it. So it's a pretty solid, strong Hellcat comp overall. For Nightmare, you tweak it slightly. This is what the turn order looks like. It's pretty much the exact same thing. It has moved a couple things around very slightly, but it syncs in pretty much the exact same style. You still have Helicath there at the bottom. You have Duchess and Helicath using their A2 in the second round, and you have Sandlash Survivor extending buffs in the third round. This one, unfortunately, not full auto, but it's pretty close. So you basically just need to push everyone out by one more turn. So Helicath, you can start with the A2 before using the A3 on the second turn. Duchess, you need 2 A1s before the A2. Sandlash Survivor, you need 2 A1s before the A2 as well. Potentially, if you're using some of the other champions here, you might be able to make it full auto, but in my case, Duchess can't use her A3 because it's a revive, and Sandlash doesn't have an A3. So you just have to auto it basically through the second turn. So you don't even get to that A2 on Sandlash, but once you've done Sandlash's second A1, you're ready to hit auto, and that'll be right after that. The second AoE happens. So that's it. So there is a clan boss team that is fully compatible also with running a unkillable Iron Twins team. Thank you, Deadwood Jedi, for the awesome Iron Twins team. I've been JG. Hope you like this. Talk to you later.